Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Braylon. With me today is my guest, Dr. Tom Morgan. How you doing, Tom? Good to see you. Tom is one of my mentors for many years. I've heard him on the platform in a number of places, including DE years ago, and he has always been a mentor to me. He has been a solid chiropractor, a principal chiropractor, and a volume chiropractor. I'll let him tell you a little bit about that, but so Tom, tell us a little bit about your history in chiropractic and your practices. I know they were legendary, but tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I'm here today to talk about my new book.
Volume Practice.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And actually, this is Volume Practice 2.
That's right.
This is the second edition to this book.
Right.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your
When we
practice.
were going to DE in the early days, we were in Verona, Mississippi, and we were seeing regular 12 to 1,400 visits a week, averaging about 300 a day. Our largest day was one day, and my wife and all the CAs witnessed it. We had 400 patients in one day.
Wow, that's you know, for a lot of chiropractors, that day is phenomenal in the thought process because most chiropractors don't see that in a week.
Well,
That's less than a day.
I used to pull up to the office and we'd have 50 waiting. We had these 4 big adjusting rooms with benches all around the room. We could put 12 to 15 in a room. So I had a ladies' room and a men's room, and a ladies' room and a men's room. Mm-hmm. And I had Thompson and Gonstead equipment. And I would come in and there would say if there was 12 ladies there, we had these special cards. Now you have to remember this was in the 70s and it was all cash. We had 2 payment plans. You either paid coming in or going out. Now, I would stand there and call the names, and I had the Gonstead listings on the cards, and I had a special holder on my Thompson table, and I would adjust all day. We would start at 7:30. Lots of times I'd get done 10, 11 at night, and we, Marianne and I, she was always behind me, and the family was always behind me. We prayed for more volume, and then when we come over to DE, we'd see who could tell the biggest stories about our volume, you know. So it was me and Sigafus,
yeah,
and Grassam and Ribley and Greg and Hoffman. It was all of us all the time seeing who could stand in the trenches the longest and do the most good for most people in the amount of time. And after I had those big years, I tried to put it down on paper. In my first book, you remember, Volume Practice 1.
Which looks like this one.
That's the exact same cover, yeah. Mm-hmm. We sold 10,000 of those books in the 90s. And that was about those years, how we reached that high volume. Plus, I had my technique notes in there, which I've ramped up quite a bit in this new book, the touch and tell system. What we did, we didn't have time, of course, to talk to our patients much.
So I remember you mentioning that on a number of occasions in the past, the touch and tell. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
The touch and tell, I had hundreds of doctors watch me as I adjusted every day. They all had the same comments. One is, you're having so much fun and your patients are having so much fun. And number 2 is, you never shut up. And that was my goal. My goal, I only was with them just a few minutes during their adjusting experience in each room. So what I did is I constantly talked about their subluxation, where it was, what I was finding, how I was correcting it. And everybody that sat in the room, they got a patient lecture by me talking about different conditions, different levels of the spine. And I always taught them all, you know, every chiropractor uses reactive leg reflex. Why we're always looking at the feet. I've talked to patients gone to chiropractors for years, don't know why we look at the feet. So my education experience was over that table, putting my hands on the people. In fact, I got so good at telling them their problems is that when I would have a new patient, lots of times in the chief complaint, it would say, you tell me. Because they'd already talked to one of my patients. They'd say, don't tell Morgan what your problem is. He'll tell you what it is and what he's going to do for it. And that developed this touch and tell system. It came from my experience at Palmer in the early days, nerve tracing, and we had to learn all these Golgi tendon points and the trigger points and the nerve pathways down the muscles from the subluxation area. So I just ramped that up and really made a system out of it, which my thought process was always osseous first, where was the mechanical relationship, and then soft tissue, what was the muscles, tendons involvement, and of course the neurological involvement. So taking these three types of thought processes into every adjustment that I gave, it actually trained all my patients there about what chiropractic, how big it was.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you first opened your practice, first of all, how big was the town you were in when you first opened your practice?
Well, I first opened up in Kentucky. That's where I'm from, northern Kentucky.
Okay.
And I went to a little small town of 800 people. And I went to the second DE meeting, and it was my second year of practice. And I remember that before I went there, I had my biggest week, biggest day. I saw 25 patients in one day. And it took me from early morning till late at night to see 25 patients. I had a neurocalligraph. I did a lot of things, of course. And the reason I'm smiling is because my last child that I sent to chiropractic college for graduation, just as a little side note, we sent him on a missionary trip, and he had 100 waiting on him, and he had a translator there, and they were asking him some questions, history, doing a little history, and finally the light came on. He said it didn't matter what they had, I was going to adjust them anyway. He said pretty soon I had a volume practice. I was seeing 100 a day, and he just got out of school. It was one of the greatest experiences I could have given him, just like it was me. But I was in this little town of Warsaw, and after DE, we got up to my last day when I sold that practice, going into the fourth year. We saw 125 my last day. And then we moved to Mississippi, to Tupelo, right outside Tupelo, where Verona was. And of course, that's where Elvis was born. And it was about 35,000 people.
So it wasn't a huge area.
No, not a huge area. But
and out of that, you were still seeing 1,500 people in a week.
Yes, easy. And we brought, at least 25, maybe 30 chiropractors to that area from being there, because there wasn't anybody in Mississippi at that time.
Which is unique, because a lot of chiropractors today, they're like, oh, well, I want to be the only one in that area, and if there's anybody else, I don't want to open up there. Now, another thing, and I'm doing this kind of tongue-in-cheek, is that a lot of chiropractors, their whole concern when they're getting out is, what kind of marketing am I going to do, and what kind of advertising? What did you do when you first opened your office in Tupelo?
Well, I can tell you what we did in my second book. This is my sixth book. And my second book was Rapid Start, and it was about how we opened these practices. And the key, I feel like, to open this practice is to go somewhere where you're needed, where you wear your reputation on your sleeve. And the whole key of opening your office is the open house. And we knew how to do it from my first little office. And when we got to Tupelo, we had 200 at open house. Sid Williams was actually there. We x-rayed, I think we x-rayed 65 or 70 patients from that 200, and they started the next week. I think the next week we actually had almost 70 patients the first week in practice. So we hit the ground about where we left off from the little office, and pretty soon, we were doing 30 a day, and then 40 a day, and then we started putting 2 or 3 women together and 2 or 3 men, and finally, it just got.
But you didn't do these slick advertising campaigns and stuff like that? Or did you do some advertising?
Oh, well, we had a daily paper, and I think it's still in Tupelo, the Tupelo Daily Journal. It came out at 4 in the morning, and what we put in there every week was a testimonial.
Mm-hmm.
And these testimonials, of course, they were back in those days, they didn't even have to be notarized. The patients would put their picture in there and even their phone number, and people would call them all week about that. And it was so effective. One week, and this is my favorite story, we put an inner ear case in there. A person that had inner ear for quite a while got immediately well and stable right after one Atlas adjustment. And we had 67 inner ear cases in 1 week.
Wow.
So testimonials, there's no argument about them. You can argue about chiropractic, and of course, I don't know how well liked I was in that town by the medical establishment, but the patients loved me. Mm-hmm. And I was getting results. And our whole goal of our team every week was to try to find that testimonial to put in the paper. In fact, it was so effective, I had referrals from people that were not even patients. They just read those testimonials. Go down and see Dr. Morgan. He can help you, I think. He helps everybody.
So it wasn't like you paid advertising people to come up with marketing.
No,
you
that
just,
was it.
You just told the story and had people who had results tell the story, and that's what drove them in.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And the things you do in your office. What can you tell me a little bit about the newest edition here, Volume Practice 2, that's in here, without giving it away, obviously,
well,
but it's a very thick book. I think you couldn't give this
400
away.
pages. Believe it or not.
There's a lot, and there's no pictures in here, so there's a lot of information in this book.
What this book is still about, like my first volume practice, was how do you get yourself in position? How do you get so motivated, get on such a course, a mission in your life, and feel so energized by your love for chiropractic and your service that you want to give, that people are drawn to you. You know, it was a humbling experience to have hundreds and hundreds of patients to drive from everywhere to come into my office and to wait maybe an hour before they got adjustment. You know, the only place I saw this in 2 other offices, one at Gonstead's, of course, and at one at John Blossom's in Northern Ohio. John had 2 rooms, a ladies' and men's room, and he had stools he used to NCM, and he would read 6 women at a time and adjust them, and then 6 men at a time and adjust them. And then they'd go lay down, and he'd come back and he'd post-check them. So I got that idea from John Blossom, and of course our mentors, Bob, they're the ones that teach us where we're going. But I can tell you this, it was my family, Mary Ann and the family behind me, and we went to DE every other month, and then we went to the intensive every month, and we had a band of brothers, and all of us were very highly charged chiropractic families, and we were all on a mission to change the world. And volume practices was how we did this. We weren't very well liked by the politicians because a volume practice stood out. And we wanted to make a difference in our communities and in this world, and it was a wonderful time. And I say in my book, Volume Practice is to fill up your day now with all the patients you can adjust, whether that's 50, 25, or 250. Whatever you can do, whatever you feel your fulfillment is in that day, it's all, chiropractic is still, to me, after all these years, the greatest health science in the world. I'm still motivated. Of course, 7 of our families put up the money to start Life University, and we transferred all of our referrals there, and we just, I've had a great experience in chiropractic. It's very hard to put it in words.
Well, I remember for many years listening to you speak at DE and the other platforms and sharing your motivation, your passion. If you had to give one little tidbit from the book about, staying motivated, staying excited about chiropractic, what one little morsel could you give us?
Well, now we have the social medias, and you can stay up with positive friends. Get rid of your negative friends. Get rid of any.
Unfriend the negative ones. You hear that?
Unfriend the negative ones. That's right. And only go to those people who want to serve more, who want to have bigger practices, more volume. They're motivated to help more people every day. One of the things I think is positive about this book is hopefully the doctors are going to their office early and meditating and planning their days and planning their weeks and setting their goals. And this book is something you can read every day. I got an email from a person that just bought one of these books, and he took a picture of it with his phone and showed me. He's lining out. He can just open it anywhere, and he can line about 2 lines that spoke to him. Mm-hmm. Where can we get something that speaks to us chiropractic every day? Can't get it off the television.
No.
We can get it from positive chiropractic friends. But this book is a book we can read, and it will that chiropractic spirit that is inflamed in our doctors, it will feed this fire and feed this dedication. And that's the purpose of this book.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you've been in chiropractic quite a while.
50 years.
50 years in chiropractic. He started when he was 2, by the way. No. I always thought I've been in a long time because I've been in about 38 years. But this man's been in 50 years, still has the passion, still has the fire, still knows how to do it, and willing to share it with other people. Can you tell us a little bit how can people get this book? Where is it?
Well, you can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles,
mm-hmm.
and if you look at my website, volumepractice.com, there'll be a little the SBN number in there where you can just order it from the publisher.
Okay.
Ebook time. Ebook time.
Ebook time. So look for it. Volume Practice 2. You should get Volume Practice 1 as well. Are your other books also in the same places?
Actually, they're all out of print except for Cash Practice. It's still in print.
Okay. Is the first one still in print?
No, it's out,
Just
all out of print.
Then you got to get this one before anything happens. I have the first one.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I have it signed by you, which I'm going to get you to do with this one in a minute.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to thank Dr. Tom Morgan for sharing with us, for being a leader in chiropractic, for blazing a path,
Thank you.
you know, that hopefully we can all follow. So thank you, and go get the book.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you both.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes, sir.